Your watching standpoint, let's explore that reshuffling, of the NNPCL board, and then the reappointment or the appointment of a new GMD CEO for NNPC, as we bring in the CEO, Mountains Energy Solutions Limited, Dr. Olusegun Okedoye. Good to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you so much.
So this is your sector, and yes. I mean, Mele Kyari has been there for a really long time. He served President Buhari and then also served President Tinubu. I want us to start with him before we even move to this new team. Okay. When you look at where he's picked up from and now, how would you say his impact in the oil sector, sort of panned out? Yeah,
the former group chief executive officer has actually served the nations, and he served very well in his own capacity. Be that as may, he faced a lot of challenges with our refinery down for decades. And non-investment in the upstream sector of the economy, plus economic downturn, the oil glut, the recession. 2 recessions happened during his time. But by and large, we were able to come out of it, and then the transition to the new government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And then you can see the systematic way the current president give enough room and marching orders to deliver to a reasonable extent before he bows out. And today, he was able to operate the refinery in Port Harcourt for 18 months, non-breaking, which, to me, he has done his bit. So we need to take it off from there to a higher level.
So some would say, look, the terms of reference for everyone is different. His own KPI is quite different from what the new team have been asked to do. But I also wanted to ask, because one of the things that people have issues with is the issue of transparency with an operational efficiency within that sector. Exactly. But he was the first to publish the audited earning on earnings of the NNPCL, for a really long time. Yes. Would you say, in terms of transparency, we have sort of moved from that place under him to, from that place where everybody thinks that the oil sector is quite opaque, the more you look, the less you see, to a place where, things are probably a bit more transparent now?
Yeah, you are right, because preceding the time he came on board, no time that you see NNPC giving us a report of their account. In his time, he was able to transit to limited. That's giving a bit of transparency to the business as it was being run before. Nobody asked question before. But in this present regime, he was able to translate to limited that we need to give report to the board. And so in his time, he is able to move a little bit of milestone to the opaque, the NNPC. It was completely opaque in the time past, because with many people's opinion says is a patronage entity for government in power. If we have to see through transparency and versatility of NNPC, this is the way to go. You must be transparent, you must be accountable to the nation and to the investor. And that's what I see he has started doing. So I think the new board now need to move it further and completely limited, completely free from encumbrances of government interference.
I mean, what would you say, before we now move to the new board, what would you say was or will be his greatest legacy?
Yeah, good. For me, it will be that one completely dead refinery was revived during his time. And also, he is the first chief executive to have translated from government corporation to limited liability.
That's the implementation of the PIA.
Of PIA.
All right, so let's talk about this new team. From a lot of people who are in the industry, what we hear is that this is an all-star team. Some have said this is an era of technocratic leadership. I mean, just a lot of positive comments. But for you, how strategic was this decision by the president? Yeah,
my view is not very different from the opinion of the generality of Nigeria. I think this is the first time we're having the square peg in a square hole. Most of the people on the board are technocrats, that people who have cut their teeth in the industry. I'm happen to have worked closely with 2 of them, the chairman, Musa Kida, and the Austin Avuru, the past executive MD of Seplat. I was working in Seplat and I rose to engineering manager before I formed Mountains Energy. So he's a person that knows the business. He was in the NNPC in his early days before he ventured out into business, and now we have seen what he was able to do. The same way with the new GCEO, Engineer Ojulari. Those are technical, those are people who have get their hands dirty in really doing the work, not just an appointee that doesn't know the business. They have grown, they have spent a lot of time, and they have seen the antecedents when they were in charge of multinationals. So I feel, with the expectation of most of Nigeria, if we are correct, we're going to see a new era of NNPC.
I was going to take you up on when you said it is a square peg. The first time we're having square pegs in square holes, because you just hit a lot of praise and compliments on Mele Kyari, almost as you're saying that he too wasn't a square peg in a square hole.
Quite frankly, not that. He is from the NNPC, rise through the rank. Today, you are bringing somebody from the business perspective to become GCEO. It's not, Ojulari is not from NNPC. Ojulari is former MD of Share, SNEPCO. So there's a bit of difference. Mele Kyari is a technocrat, is a thoroughbred Nigerian professional in oil and gas, started his career in NNPC and rose through the rank. Today, you are having somebody who has gone into real world, real business world, not like government enterprises. And so, he's going to bring in a new innovation that may be different from what we used to be before. That is why I say a complete square peg in a square hole, in the sense that people that are not from the NNPC per se, coming in, but they are professional in oil and gas, who has done the business of the oil and gas profitably in their previous endeavor.
We saw the very positive review of this from JP Morgan as soon as that decision, announcement was made by the presidency. What sort of signal will this send to investors? The president is very, very big on investors, coming to the country, foreign direct investment. What signal will this send to investors? It's
a positive signal that Nigeria is ready for business. Just like President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu always say to the investor, anytime he goes out, we are ready for business. And this is one of the steps the world is waiting for him to take the business of oil and gas from opaqueness, as it were before, and put it on a pedestal that it could be transparent and it could be run professionally, just the same way some of the multinationals are run elsewhere in the world.
And because you mentioned multinationals, it's quite, for a lot of people who have followed the industry for a while, who are just watchers and probably not active participants, because we see other state-owned or partly state-owned oil companies around the world, whether it's Saudi Arabia's Aramco, Petrobras from Brazil, and then Gazprom of Russia. We see how well run they are. They still have the state-owned element, but run and very profitable. When they publish their earnings, you see the really wide gap between they and Nigeria. Is there a path to getting there for us? Are we on the right path in terms of getting to that state where you have, for example, Saudi Aramco?
Exactly. I think that if I could see through the eyes of our current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that is where he's taking us to. It's a baby step. Put the right people who are seeing the business of oil and gas in a profitable manner into this thing. Not that the people who are there before does not know book, but it is this one that are bringing in culture of business environment to bear in running a state-owned corporation. Also, defer you from total control of Nigerian government. If eventually they are limited and they go to the street, to the what do you call it, to shareholders, they must be accountable and they will run like Saudi Aramco that are profitable. Nigerian has sweet oil. It's not so deep, it's not of sand. We just have sweet oil. That's what they call Nigerian crude oil. So we should have a sweet money as well. But we cannot get that when we are running it in the wrong way. I believe this present board will bring to bear the versatility in managing a multinational like NNPC.
But is it possible, because again, it's one of the biggest challenges that we have, when we have, over time, presidents who have also assumed, unofficially, not stated, but also assumed the role of the Minister of Petroleum, when what you have is then a Minister of State for Petroleum, Minister of State for, now we have oil and gas. And when you have that kind of situation, how possible is it then to completely have an NNPCL that is devoid of government interference?
Very good. I think that's one of the areas that we need to concentrate on and look at, and have a standalone, focused Minister of Petroleum. Because the office of presidency is quite big and quite enormous. Having to hold it with the Minister of Petroleum is too much to handle. In my opinion, I would prefer, and I would like to see in Nigeria where we have a substantive Minister of Petroleum that will be running this business on a day-to-day basis, just like it was done in somewhere else. I think it is a fear from the previous government that we want to know what's going on in NNPC because people are complaining it's not transparent. That is why the president wanted to be part of it. But what I've seen today with the present board appointment, it shows a signal that one day we will have a substantial Minister of Petroleum in Nigeria.
How soon is that one day? Because I mean, this is a practice, from other presidents as well, not just this one.
Yeah, you could believe with me that there are some bold steps and bold decisions that President Ahmadu Tinubu has taken that has been a defeat from what we used to be. It may not be in a long while. Before you know, maybe in another 1 year, you will see that there will be a cabinet reshufflement, and then the substantial Minister of Petroleum will emerge to give more drive to this present board. I want to believe that the chairman of this board too, with his team, will sit down and give a feedback to government on what they need to also change. Government has done its own to appoint them. They need to look at it holistically and see what has been the practice before, what has been the sought for, and what are they going to bring on board to make a good difference.
In terms of operational efficiency, what areas do you think have not been addressed or were not addressed by the Mele Kyari-led team that should be addressed now if we are to move to that place where the Aramco and Gazprom operates in? Okay,
very good. One of the areas that I feel they should look at critically is this accountability to the stakeholders. Once you are accountable and the investor sees that if they bring their money in here, they will have profit. You will see the inflow into our system, and then we'll be able to move from this 1.6 million barrels a day to where government wants us to be in the next 1 year, which is 2 million barrels. And so we need to see a concrete step by this present board to open up the space for the investor to bring in money into upstream business in Nigeria, and also ready to show that they are not actually accountable, but they are seen to be accountable.
All right, so when you look at the profile of most members of the board, you find that some of them seem to tend towards, gas. Yes. Does that also signal the direction that the president wants to go? Because he's always talked about moving us away from that focus on petroleum or oil to gas.
You might not be completely wrong, but I see that they are not biased. They are people who have run both oil. The present GCEO is of SNEPCO origin. SNEPCO produced a large number of thousands of barrels to our bottom line in Nigeria. Musa Kida was my former boss when I was in Total and when we were doing NNPCL. That's gas. So you may say he's more of gas, but he has been with oil before gas.
He moved to gas.
Because when we do OBT debottlenecking, which is also gas nameplate, to increase the nameplate of gas production by Total, he was in charge. And he did that project very well, and it was a successful project before I move on to Seplat. Now, if we look at the other board member they appointed, Austin Avuru is a technocrat. He's a person that has moved Seplat from 14,000 barrels to, at the point when we were there, 80,000 barrels oil. And also diversify. That's why you see Seplat is having a strong footing in gas. We have arguably the biggest gas producer of national oil in Nigeria, Seplat. So he has seen it all. He has an idea of what it takes.
There's a balance,
of oil and gas in all these people that they bring on board. Look at people from the government sector, from government offices, Ministry of Finance. There are people who have actually sit down with people who produce this oil. So it's going to be a complementary effort in this arrangement our president has put in place. And we can only pray for them and wish them good health and sound mind to drive the agenda of renewed hope of Mr. President.
I mean, the president has pretty much set the what the KPI. It's one of them, which is a very big ask. Is a 3 million barrels per day production. That's a lot. We've done 2.5, I think, during President Goodluck Jonathan.
Yes.
As much as that, which means that it's something we can do. But where we are now is way lower than that. We've struggled with meeting our OPEC quota. And so, how do we get from here to there?
It's a lot of work, but it's not something that cannot be done. If we have peace in the Niger Delta, the pipeline is not being busted, and then the rig count keep increasing. As of today, the rig count in Nigeria is up to 39. That was a time we were 7. In the country of 230 million people, it's abysmal performance in the last era. And so, if you see the rising in the rig count, that shows there's a potential to increase our nameplate, to increase our production. And then with what I'm saying, that government is putting all measures in place in Niger Delta to ensure that it's peace, so that this pipelines will be up to deliver. Because there are some oil well that was capped today because there is no haulage. There's no pipeline to take them from where they are to the terminal. So if all these are sorted out, you will see that our production will be increased. In the east, there are potential to produce more than what Seplat is actually producing in the east because there's no haulage. But with the present effort to make sure that Trans-Niger pipeline is up and running, they will increase their production, cap oil well will be open, and then you will see that we increase in the production. Also, government has done something last year through the NUPRC to rebuild the moribund oil block that Atitato left undone. If those guys who are bidding have been awarded and then timeline given to them to deliver on their promises, we will get to 2 million barrels in no distant time as President envisaged. And then we can get to 3 million in 2027 or 2030. 230 million Nigerians cannot be producing 1.5, 1.6. We will be broke. Saudi Arabia is just about 50 million people and producing 5 million barrels. So even 3 million that the government is pushing is still below bet, but at least it's somewhere from 2030.
And I'm wondering because there's been a lot of opportunities, one would say, in the global oil markets, especially with a lot of countries cutting ties, from Russia.
Yes.
In events of at invasion of Ukraine. And some say, Europe saying we would no longer import gas or oil from you. America also wanting to cut ties. That's something that perhaps we could have taken advantage of if we had enough production capacity to meet it.
Yeah, very good scenario playing out, and Nigeria need to cash in on this opportunity. The Saharan gas pipeline that is being done from Egypt down to the west coast should be monitored and place emphasis on, so that Nigeria is rich in gas, even more than the oil. So if you say the bias to see how we can exploit our gas, I think it's the right way in the right direction. Because more often than not, we need this gas to kickstart our economy in Nigeria, also to supply the Europe market. There are a lot of potential for Nigeria to gain in this quagmire between Russia and Ukraine and America. So this board now still need to sit back and put their thinking cap on and see how we are going to cash in on this opportunity that presents itself. Even with the trade war, within Nigeria we have 14%. Canada is more than 28%. Europe is also having their own bite. South Africa is also knocked. So Nigeria should see it's presenting us a golden opportunity to increase our capacity and to make earnings for Nigeria.
And one of the other part of that was mentioned, which is again what I call the KPI from the president, is again very interesting. Elevate NNPC's share of crude oil refining output to 200,000 barrels by 2027 and reach 500,000 by 2030.
Yes.
It means that almost all, if not all, but at least the refineries need to come upstream and function at perhaps 70%, 100% capacity.
Yes, definitely. Because if you look at Kaduna Refinery, Warri Refinery, and Port Harcourt, combined two of them, they were more than 200,000 barrels. The first refinery in Port Harcourt is actually working now. They are working seriously on the second one. If the two of them come on, and the refinery in the Warri, which is also 60,000 barrels, plus the capacity of the one in the two in the Port Harcourt, we will almost hit that 200,000 barrels. Then Kaduna, that is lagging behind, is also gaining momentum, because I know a quite extensive number of work is ongoing in Kaduna as well, but they are not in the news yet. I see, because we are also trying to do something with them in refinery at Kaduna from Mountains Energy. We have some solutions to the problem they are encountering. That's why I'm able to tell you a snippet. So if those things come on board, we will get to 200,000 barrels comfortably. So we have Port Harcourt. Two in Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt Old, Port Harcourt New.
So one of them is, we have one, for, I think they said 70% capacity.
It's 70% capacity right
now. Warri Refinery, we understand that is also,
it's also nearing completion.
Nearing completion. Yes. You just mentioned that Kaduna is also nearing completion. And so if we have, let's even say 70%, maybe not 100, would that give us 200,000 or 500,000?
Yeah, if we have 75, 70% of all of them, we will hit 200,000 barrels.
If we have 100% of all of them, we will hit 500,000.
Yes, we hit 500,000.
What does it take? Because even the Port Harcourt, the one that everyone was excited about, seems to be also making not quite so much progress. It seems to be quite slow in terms of its progress. Yes, its progress. We're hoping that the new one would come up quickly and also function. But Warri is also slow.
Yeah.
What does it take to get from there to 200,000, 500,000?
It's a lot of work, a serious work, which with hindsight of understanding of what's going on in the refinery, I can tell you they are on the right track to get it sorted out. I am not envious of their position because Nigerians have been withered out of empty promises. And that's why you see NNPC is not churning out information again until they're actually done with what they ought to do. And I believe in no distance time, Warri Refinery will come on stream to complement what Port Harcourt is doing.
So I like that you mentioned Nigerians, because in all of this, one of the things you find is that Nigerians feel so disconnected from NNPC. The oil is asked, but there is some sort of disconnection between the oil and the company that refines the oil and produce markets the oil, and then Nigerians who own the oil. And so for a lot of Nigerians, it's just like, okay, this is a company that is meant for the elites, to make money. Why would just buy the fuel? What can be done to sort of also ensure that there is a sense of ownership, by Nigeria, especially by this board, because that's what Nigerians were. All of this grammar we're speaking amounts to nothing if Nigerians don't feel a sense of ownership, in NNPC. Yeah,
before now, let me shock you. In 2013, 2014, I was in Warri Refinery. By then, I was the pipeline manager for Seplat Energy, and we construct pipeline to Warri Refinery. To my surprise, they don't believe that we can do that project in 3 months. Constructing 7-kilometer pipeline, 12 inches size. And I told the MD of that time that I will do it. He thought I was joking. But within that three months, I was able to take pipeline from Rapele to Warri Refinery. Do you believe what I found out in refinery? It was run like a government office. People needed to be pushed to do their job. We opened up from Rapele and we pushed oil into the pipeline, and I could not see any of my counterparts in the refinery to open up their tap or their valve for oil to go into the tank. I had to run to the MD, who rose up from his office immediately and start making calls. Before you know it, in another 5 minutes, they all gather. What does that show me? It shows that the ineptitude of the so-called government worker is still affecting refinery. As at that time, they were down for more than 3 years. In that place, people are still getting promotion. They are still collecting allowances. Car is being given. They are still traveling. On top of non-performance, if NNPC is really open and not opaque, that will not happen. Can that happen in your office where people don't come to work, or they are not producing anything and they are collecting salary for years? Who does that? So I think the new board need to sit back and make sure that this kind of you make profit, I don't make profit, I collect my salary syndrome stop in the refinery. People must be accountable.
Employment as well. That process also has to be sanitized and made very, very transparent. Thank you so much for your time. So CEO Mountains Energy, Dr. Olusegun Okedoye, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.